because he tuned in and heard us out there at Scramblers and thought, well, we were only out there for a Heroes Breakfast. We're out at Scramblers every single Friday, and about once a month, we do the Heroes Breakfast along with a number of our partners, Warriors Journey, Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, Delta Roofing, and Scramblers. And that is usually, not always, but it's usually the last Friday of the month. Sometimes it gets moved around because of holidays, generally speaking. But that is once a month, and we are out there every single Friday. So I know it could be a little bit confusing, but if you weren't aware of how it works, that is how it works. Okay? It's very simple. And we do have it this Friday, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just needed validation.
Yes.
I needed backup.
And in case
over here.
you miss any of that and you're like, I have questions, KSGF.com in the homepage slider.
Well, there we go, everyone.
I have contributed.
Yes. And a wonderful job at that.
Thank you.
We do have a texting competition going on. Your chance to win tickets to see Because You're Mine, the music of June Carter and Johnny Cash at the Ato Center. And it's not a straight-up concert. It's not a straight-up, play performance. It's sort of a hybrid of the two, I suppose. You have got the essential concert moments replicated by the performance, also some sketches and stories with 23 songs that will be performed. And that is coming up September 7th. If you want to text to win, or your chance to win. Let's see, what is the word today? June. Okay, June. Text the word June, June, to the Pyramid Roofing text line, which is 417-447-KSGF, and you'll get a message back letting you know that you are registered if you did do it correctly. And every day is a different keyword, so every day is a new chance to win. Okay, got all that out of the way. Yesterday, a couple of declaration signings taking place. It's been 4 years since the completely avoidable, sadly, terrorist attack that killed 13 Americans and hundreds of others, wounding so many others as well at Abbey Gate. This part of the embarrassingly disastrous way that the Biden administration withdrew us out of Afghanistan, which, of course, the butterfly effect that would come from that, mostly, of course, the invasion of Ukraine by Putin, recognizing how weak and poor in judgment the administration was during the Biden years. It's just the ripple effect has been very unfortunate. And it's been 4 years, and it's a vast difference in the recognition by the Trump administration as opposed to the Biden administration, in which you had numerous parents note that the Biden, no one ever even reached out to them. The only, if you want to call it face-to-face interaction, so many of the parents had with Joe Biden was observing him checking his watch numerous times during the reception of the bodies of those Americans. And, of course, you can imagine how seared into their minds that is and how furious it is knowing that ultimately he was responsible for the decision to pull out that led to the death of those Americans in that terrorist attack, and to, as a parent, watch him looking at his watch like, how boring is this? Can't wait to get out of here. That versus the recognition from the Oval Office yesterday, and we'll have some of that audio, including Hegseth talking about what is going to be a real in-depth investigation that is to look into exactly what went wrong. Now, I don't honestly know exactly, what they're looking for. The buck should stop with Biden. And maybe it is to just get more transparency into, was Biden even involved in that decision ultimately? To what level, to what degree? And will anyone be held accountable? I suspect not, but we shall see. And that's something that Hegseth touched on yesterday, so we'll have that audio. Also, we're going to play some of the audio from the DNC opening their summer meeting over the weekend. And some of this didn't have a chance to get to yesterday, but it is watching Cracker Barrel try and navigate through the pushback by so many Americans because of their changes they're going through, and how they keep saying we recognize and we value your thoughts and opinions, but then essentially continue to say, but we're going to do this anyway. And the Democrats doing the same thing, talking about how, yes, we need to figure out how it is to make amends with the people that we've lost, and we need to figure out how it is that we can get those people back. But then they hold these events, and it's just like they refuse to actually listen and respond accordingly to their customer base, the average, not just Democrat voter, but the people that are not the tried and true Democrats out there, the wider audience, which increasingly they alienate. And I don't know if you've seen the latest with Snoop Dogg, but he is a perfect example of why it is that the left continues to lose people. And he has come on. I knew this was going to happen. I'm sure most of you did as well. He was on a podcast talking about taking one of his grandkids, or perhaps numerous grandkids, to see one of the Disney or Pixar films. I think it was whatever that latest Buzz Lightyear one was. And it had two mommies in it with a baby. And he's explaining that his 5 or 6 year old grandson, was confused and said, how is it that they can have a baby with, there's no dad, there's two moms? And he was bemoaning the fact that he's like, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't want to. What do they got to put that in there for? Now I've got to deal with trying to explain in the middle of a movie to my 5 or 6 year old. That's not what I came here for. I just came to watch a movie. Well, of course. Now that's a normal person reaction. That's not a MAGA reaction. Not that people in the, quote, MAGA world don't have that same sort of reaction, but it does not make you MAGA. It makes you a normal person. This is what the left doesn't understand. That you on the left are the ones who, frankly, aren't normal. And the way, in fact, there is a huge event in Australia coming up, the Australian Football League. And evidently, Snoop Dogg, he was part of like the big final. I guess he was supposed to do a performance, and already one Australian senator is calling for him to be booted from the event because he's a slur merchant. And this is what he's going to face. He's going to face, because he's a normal grandpa who had a normal reaction to something in a movie that was supposed to be for kids that resulted in a child asking questions of an adult nature. And he is going to be treated as if he is some sort of crazy, hate-mongering psychopath. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how he responds if he says, listen, I'm just telling you, this is my normal, I'm just telling you the truth. This was my reaction. Or is he going to back down and do the standard Hollywood celebrity sort of response, which is, I have a lot to learn, and there's room for me to grow, and at my age, you've got to this sort of apologetic tour, I suspect we'll know one way or another by the end of today or tomorrow. So as you can see, we have quite a bit to cover this morning. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 82. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 55. For your Wednesday, we'll see a 30% chance of showers, otherwise cloudy with a high near 82. And taking a look at Thursday, 90% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 68.
I think it was over the weekend, Sunday, perhaps. I don't know what day it was, but Harry Enton of CNN, he does all the polling stuff and the breakdown of the polling, and he really seems to have captured, I think, the public attention in terms of the go-to for polling, and he's got weekly stuff, and he really sort of explains it and what I would argue is generally a pretty unbiased approach. Sometimes he has a flavor to it that I don't necessarily agree with, but for CNN, he's aces, 5-star for CNN. And he made an offhand comment about how the branding of the DNC is as beloved right now as the branding of Cracker Barrel. That it's just this relationship in which you have the alienation of a large segment of the population and just kind of doubling down, saying that you're hearing and listening, but then demonstrating that you're not. And I thought that was a very interesting comparison, largely because it's true. And the DNC, they had their summer meeting yesterday, the opening of the summer meeting where they get together and strategize and rally and rah-rah and so forth. And it's, I mean, it is just, frankly, and I don't know that there's a more plain way to put this, more of why it is normal people don't like the Democrats. And I'm using the term normal not to be disparaging, but in the truest form. Like what is the average person? What is, and then you've got outside of that norm, the abnormal. And by the way, abnormal doesn't always mean wrong. It just generally happens to mean that with the DNC. But, you know, again, I'm not saying it in order to be cruel or to name call, but they're just not normal. And this is why average people have turned away from the Democrats. Here is part of the opening yesterday.
Thank you, Pastor Rome. Now, please welcome a friend of mine from the Minnesota DFL, their treasurer, and her name is Lindy Somek, who is from the Saginaw Ojibwe Nation, and she's going to deliver our land acknowledgement today. Lindy?
Oh, God.
Bonjour, Lindy Somek, Nindigenous, Amik Dodam, Saginaw Chippewa Dojaba, Anishinaabe Kwe and Dow. Good morning, DNC members, friends, and relatives. Let's talk about the land for a second.
All right. And then she goes into it. She sounded like a weird combination of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris there. Like it sounded like a word salad, but then you realize I don't understand what she's saying, actually. It's clearly in some language. Or she could be making it up and just assume not. I mean, who's going to know what it? She's like, oh, it's the Dakota this, that, and so forth. Like, I don't know. Now, and it goes on and on with this, you know, the land acknowledgement, portraying that land as since the very beginning of time, somehow naturally those particular group, that particular group of people just sprung up there and what?
I went to pull this article up for your must-read headlines. And this gal is a self-described indigenous queer woman.
Oh, Lord. Well, of course she is. That way, they're just even that much more relatable to the average American. But so it's this rewriting of history, and it's the left has in their mind that one day, which is sort of weird because it runs counter to the fact that they mock Christians and the idea that God created the earth and so forth. But, they do in their heads believe that evidently that did occur, that boom, one day there were human beings on the planet. Now, as opposed to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, they believe that you had all of these people, I guess, in certain areas of the world. And here in what is now the United States, there were these certain tribes that just, boom, appeared, and that land was automatically theirs by virtue of God. And they never took it from anyone. There was never any fighting amongst these people whatsoever until the white man came along and they were like, no, that's ours, and then ran them off the land. That's in their minds the way it worked, and that of course is so counter to history and truth. But nonetheless, this is what they believe. And this is just a little bit of a side note that probably also to most people doesn't stand out in this day and age. But she gets up there and she reads it off her cell phone. And I've noticed this increasingly with people, particularly at these college events. If you have Charlie Kirk or, someone show up to have debates, to have these discussions and to back and forth over challenging ideas, people on the left, more than any other group of people, they show up and they just read straight from their phone, which to me says that they don't really even know what they're talking about. And I get it if it is a last moment thing and you're reading an exact quote or you are reading from something that's dealing with numbers and statistics and you want to get it accurate. But in a situation like this, here is somebody that is supposed to be this representation of these people that she cares so deeply about. And this is an issue that is so very important that the DNC has to open its entire summer meeting with it, yet this person that is a representation of this truly significant recognition can't even from her heart or her mind for 60 seconds, which is about how long it lasted, talk on this. She has to pull it up on her phone. I mean, like I said, I get it and understand at times you want to have notation right there. But, I think that there are some moments that you should demonstrate you care enough about the issue to be able to talk about the issue without having to pull it up on your phone. And again, that's the sort of thing probably most people don't think about. But every time I see somebody get up and they're like, oh, I'm going to challenge Charlie Kirk here. Or, oh, I'm going to talk about something that's so important and sacred, it should come from the heart. And then they pull up their phone. I'm thinking, you're such a poser. You don't even have this in your own mind. You have to pull it from the internet. There were a number of other speakers at the event. Tim Waltz going absolutely berserk. Elizabeth Warren also demonstrating why it is that they just are not learning. All that coming up. I'm Nick Reed. Emily Johnson House Theory Realty for home buying needs, home selling needs. You want somebody awesome on your side, the absolute best in the industry. You want Emily Johnson House Theory Realty. And that is if you are trying to sell a home or perhaps you're looking to buy one. Maybe you have a friend or family member that is a political refugee from a state like Colorado or California or New Jersey or New York, and there's no better welcome as they move to this part of the country than to have that, incredible work and compassion and hospitality that you get with Emily Johnson to help get them into that new home. In fact, we've read to you some of the reviews of people that have moved from outside of the state and what a remarkably welcoming and easy situation she made what otherwise could be very difficult and stressful. So whether you're looking to buy a home, sell a home across the street, or maybe someone from across the country, Emily Johnson House Theory Realty. Tim Waltz, I think this was at the same event. Let's see. Yes, this was during the Democratic National Convention summer meeting that opened up with a land acknowledgement, which could possibly be one of the single greatest cringeworthy virtue signaling characteristics of the Democrat Party and the Democrat people. Something that is so completely off base historically and meaningless at the same time, yet makes them feel as if they are just something incredibly special and wonderful. Remember when the school district did a land acknowledgement on something?
When was it?
I want to say it was around the time we started getting all of the DEI workbook stuff that the Springfield Public Schools was forcing the different employees in the district to go through, however many years ago that was now, 5, 6, I forget. But I think it was one of those meetings that they had opened with a land acknowledgement. It's just such a worthless, narcissistic, virtue signaling thing to do. And that's how, of course, the Democratic National Convention summer meeting opened up. Just to give you a quick snapshot of what it was that the audience there was treated to from Tim Waltz. Oops, I did that incorrectly. All right, you know what? I'm going to take, actually, a traffic update. Then I'll play it on the other side of the traffic update because I accidentally started to delete the audio instead of playing it. But I can save this day.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks' first meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 82. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 55. For your Wednesday, we'll see a 30% chance of showers, otherwise cloudy with a high near 82. And taking a look at Thursday, a 90% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 68.
The Democrats kicked off their big summer meeting in Minneapolis on Monday. Tim Walz made an appearance talking about how easy it must be to be a Republican.
How easy it would be to be a stupid freaking redneck. What should I say today? I don't know. Just make sure it's cruel. Who do we listen to? That guy. Oh, the felon in the White House? Yeah, listen to him and that will be fine.
Those are great policy ideas.
Very folksy.
Very, very folksy. Off air, Sarah made the comment, can you imagine if that guy was vice president? One of the things that he talked about yesterday during his speech was, can you imagine, this is what he was saying to this audience. Now, these are Democrats. He was asking them to envision how much better things would be if Kamala Harris was president. Now, the polling amongst Democrats has shown that they don't even want Kamala Harris running for the presidency again. It's not as if she has some sort of overwhelming support. She doesn't have a support. So this is just how out of tune they are with reality. To be up there and utilizing as some sort of rallying cry how much better things would be if this person were president when that audience themselves as Democrats don't support that woman running for president again? Now, the point, of course, isn't her, it's Trump. And these are people that just continue to demonstrate they have no ideas whatsoever, that are grounded in any sort of truth or reality that resonates with the average American person. Now, they have beliefs and ideas, and they are extremely unpopular with the American people. Open border, side of the criminals, anti-deportation of drug dealers and human traffickers, sex change operations for kids, forcing girls to take showers with boys and compete against them, pornography in elementary schools. These are not things that normal people want. And even those things, many of them believe simply because Republicans are normal and against them. And the Democrat Party, because they aren't really grounded in any actual truth, and because their beliefs are not anchored in any sort of real truth, right now, they define themselves as the opposite of what Republicans are. Which is why some of these universal truths that normal people understand and believe, we were all on the same page. Sex change operations for kids is not this value that Democrats have held since the beginning of their party, and this has just always been one of these big divides. Everyone was on the same page about this sort of thing. No one in either party used to tout pornography in elementary schools or forcing girls to compete against boys. These are things, as increasingly Democrats have determined that their only value is being anti-Trump and anti-Republican, because Trump and Republicans are normal on these positions. They have decided, they've evolved over the past decade or so to be in opposition to these normal belief systems. That's how it is. When people, they ask, how is it that they've become so crazy? How is it that they've become so radical? That's how. And it's also part of the reason that every time they are asked what is it we should do? How is it we start winning? All they do is talk about Trump or fighting Trump. Elizabeth Warren, no exception to this. Here she was asked a question at this, I believe this is the same event as well, yes, about what is it that Democrats need to do in order to start winning.
The Democratic Party's approval rating is also near an all-time low. So the question is, what do Democrats need to do to win back Congress in the midterms and just win back the people?
Well, I got to tell you, nobody elected the Democrats to lie down and play dead. The number one thing we got to do is stand up and fight back.
Over what? Incidentally, why didn't Elizabeth Warren do the land acknowledgement to open up the...
She is also self-described
Yes, she
indigenous.
is. Self-described indigenous
So
person.
she could have done it.
Just as easily. Do you wonder... I think these people don't, but this is the difference in how normal people think versus those people think. If I'm there as Elizabeth Warren and I got busted faking my heritage, and then I'm there as they do some sort of land acknowledgement for Native Americans, I'd want to shrink away because I'd be like, oh my gosh, I got caught faking my ancestry as pretending to be Native American. But I don't think that sort of thing bothers these people at all. They have absolutely no shame. But back to the point, well, you just got to fight. You've been doing that. And I don't know, frankly, how much harder you can fight. Now, smarter, that's a different story. But they just yell louder. They name call more. That does not work. You have gotten your supporters so whipped into a fighting frenzy that they've actually shot Donald Trump. Secret Service and the FBI continuing, even as late as last week, tracking down Democrat activist supporters who get riled up by the rhetoric of people like Elizabeth Warren and decide to take matters into their own hand to, quote, save democracy from the dictator Donald Trump and try to take him out. There's a woman just arrested in D.C., traveled to D.C. for that purpose last week. And you can't claim that there's no connection between Democrat rhetoric and these people who are attempting to assassinate Trump because they use the exact same verbiage. He's a dictator. Got to save democracy. He's a danger to democracy. You had in Colorado the Secretary of State ban Trump from the ballot. Or, more accurately, banned the people of Colorado from the right to vote for Donald Trump. Supreme Court had to step in unanimously saying, yeah, you can't do that. There were a number of other states that tried to keep him off the ballot. Numerous jurisdictions trying to throw him in prison. The Attorney General of New York campaigning on doing just that, not over any particular issue. Just saying, if you elect me, I'll find some way to get him. The faking of dossiers. I mean, you can go down the list of everything that they have done to, quote, fight, calling him Hitler, calling him a dictator, calling his supporters Nazis. There's plenty of fight that's going on. It's just a sort of nasty fight from the Democrats that's detached from reality and the normal person out there that makes them not win with that form of fighting. You're not fighting for the people. Now, you may be fighting for those that you get whipped into a frenzy that feel like they need to assassinate Trump or kill Republicans, those people that you have convinced that Trump is going to start imprisoning people. I don't know when he's going to start doing that, but imprisoning political opposition and transgenders, and he's going to cancel elections, and he's a wannabe dictator and all of this stuff. You can that very narrow, extremist, and anti-Semitic oftentimes audience, yes, you can rally those people, get them whooping and hollering and excited, but that clearly isn't working for you. See, this is where I really, truly do worry about what are the Democrats going to do next? Because it's clear that they have decided being normal and trying to win on the issues is something that they are no longer interested in doing. There was a time when they did this. I mean, frankly, I would argue that it was during the Clinton years, it was the last time that Democrats really truly responded to the American people's wants and needs, and would pivot in order to cater to those needs, in order to try and serve what it was the American people were wanting. When Obama came along, that all changed. They shifted from, no, now we're going to tell you what needs to be done. Hence the hope and change. Hope for what? Change for what? It no longer was about an actual issue. And then Hillary Clinton came along, and it was about danger to democracy, and Trump is a wannabe dictator. And ever since then, that evolution, and it really seemed like the 2016 election, Democrats completely abandoned arguing on the issues and completely abandoned trying to figure out how is it that we can genuinely serve the American people in a manner that results in their quality of life improving in terms of the relationship with government and education and border security and security in your own streets and so forth. They just abandoned it and instead shifted to the opposition is bad and evil and we are good, and that's why you should support us. Even to their own demographic. That was reflected in Obama trying to shame black men into voting for Kamala Harris, claiming if you didn't, you're misogynistic, a.k.a. you're bad and evil. So when you are a political party, and I would also argue, there's never been a Republican president that is so actively rooted in results, actual results. This is why he's bragging all the time. And so we have, to a greater degree in our lifetime, a divide between actual results for the American people versus a complete and total lack of interest in providing results for the American people. Well, what do you do if as a political party, when it comes to winning elections, you have abandoned the arena of ideas, and you have abandoned the arena of results? Well, I think we've seen a taste of it. You try to have political opposition thrown off the ballot. You try to kill political opposition. You try to demonize political opposition. You try to imprison political opposition. You try to drain their resources. You try to keep them tied up in court so that they're not out there on the campaign trail. Well, what's the next step when that doesn't work? That's the scary thing about this political party right now. And this open discussion that keeps happening about, well, is somebody like Governor Shapiro of Pennsylvania, somebody who's more normal, going to recenter the party? I don't think the nut jobs that are currently running the party will allow that to happen. I think the lives of people like Shapiro or other Democrats that may be the old school normal Democrats are in just as much jeopardy with these people in the arena as Donald Trump's is. And you listen to increasingly these Democrats that, like the Elizabeth Warren and the Tim Walz and these others, that once upon a time may have spoken the more normal speak and really did potentially worry about policy ideas and so forth, and they've abandoned that. When you have Elizabeth Warren standing up with the anti-Semitic Democratic nominee for mayor in New York by his side, saddling up to him, a guy that wants to eliminate police, a guy that wants to do away with privately owned grocery stores and go to the Soviet Union / Cuba style of grocery in this country. That's insane. And so I know a lot of people, a lot of Republicans look at the Democrat Party with joy and glee and say they'll never have power again. I think we underestimate how influential hate can be and how powerful, as the Democrats abandon their previous approach of trying to prove their policies are best and instead accepting this authoritarian approach of, no, you support us because we're good and they're bad. That's, I think, bad for the country, because you will look at New York. In all likelihood, they are going to elect an openly anti-Semitic mayor. And while you may look at that and go, well, that's New York. Well, it's New York today. But if you think something like that can't happen in what is becoming increasingly left-wing in Springfield, Missouri, then I think that, we just need to wake up a little bit. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Ozarks Elder Law, the importance of planning for your future, planning for the day that you may need to be in assisted living, or mom or dad or grandmother or grandfather, or perhaps you have somebody that you're a caretaker for. Legally, they're adult, but they're special needs. And what happens when you pass on? You think that, well, I've got a brother or sister. Clearly, it would just default to closest kin. That is not how it works any longer. We went from a day and a time in this country where it would have been unthinkable that government would involve itself in such things, to where now you have to protect yourself from. You have to have everything nailed down and in writing, signed, sealed, and delivered. Otherwise, government they will do everything they can to get involved. And you never win when that's the case. That's just the unfortunate reality of it. And so at what age should you do this planning? Last Friday, Lori Rook of Ozarks Elder Law said, in our family, it's 18 once you become a legal adult. And her own son, age 18, on his birthday, that's what he did. That is the best time to do it. As far in the future, like, what do I have to worry? Young, healthy, you never know. Ozarks Elder Law, 10 area locations. That, of course, includes right here in Springfield, Nixa, Branson, Lebanon, Joplin. You can see all the other listings at ozarkselderlaw.com, also under Nick's endorsements at ksgf.com. The New York Times has revealed in a piece that there was sort of this secret deal going on behind the backs of donors to pay off debt from Kamala Harris's failed 2024 White House run. Gateway pundit noting that, according to the New York Times, Harris deceived donors as she struck the secret deal with the DNC to pay off the remaining debt from her failed White House bid. The New York Times reporting that not long after Kamala Harris lost the 2024 election, her senior advisors in the Democratic National Committee struck a handshake deal. Ms. Harris still had bills piling up. Campaign officials had counted on raising more money during a prolonged fight over tallying the votes, a.k.a. challenging the outcome of the election. Instead, the race was called early in the morning after Election Day. The private agreement between Kamala Harris and the DNC was this: the party would pick up the tab for any outstanding bills, allowing Harris to falsely claim that she did not end the race in debt. In turn, Harris would raise the money to cover all of those leftover costs, leaving the party whole financially as it sought to navigate the second Trump era. Left in the dark were the small donors, who received nearly 100 email solicitations sent from the Harris operation this year alone on behalf of the DNC. The emails did not disclose that the funds raised from those emails were essentially earmarked for leftover bills. So the scam is this: small donors, many of which may be on Social Security, fixed incomes, paycheck to paycheck, and the DNC deceptively is telling those people, we need you to give us more money so that we can fight against Republicans and win back the House or the Senate in the midterms, or get prepared to get into the White House after the post-Trump era, when in reality those dollars are being used for no such thing, but instead paying off Kamala's bills. Bills which rational people recognize were completely and totally unnecessary. These are bills to give millions of dollars to famous celebrities like Oprah Winfrey and Beyonce. And while they run around claiming we didn't get paid for this, it was to their businesses. And they weren't the only celebrities that just the rich getting richer, and for a political party that claims that it's looking out for the working guy and just hand over fist pouring money into the pockets of some of the richest people in celebrity status, and people like Oprah Winfrey, you couldn't just donate that time. You couldn't donate those efforts. Beyonce couldn't donate her performance. But instead taking money from people that are on fixed incomes. And all this time, according to the New York Times expose here, the DNC has been trying to get more money out of these people in order to pay back Kamala, who took those dollars and gave it to the rich and wealthy. And by the way, the millions and millions, the pockets that got lined weren't just celebrities, but many high-profile consultants as well. Let's get a traffic update. I'm Nick Reed. The Pyramid Roofing Company text line 447-KSGF. Have you ever seen the cartoon Pinky and the Brain? That is the Democrat Party. I haven't. I know of it, but I don't think I've ever actually watched an episode of it. School back in session, and so is the Godfather's Teachers Lounge Pizza Party. This is a twist on the old pizza party. When you were a kid in school, have a pizza party for class, and you could register to win your class a pizza party. And I remember hearing different contests like that, and oftentimes it was presented as you could win a pizza party for your class, like for your teacher to have for the class. And when I looked back on it as an adult, I thought, what a crappy prize for a teacher. She gets to clean up, or he gets to clean up after a pizza party, and it doesn't really seem fun for the teacher. So that's why this is for the actual teacher and Teacher's Lounge, or anyone that works within the school district. So you can go to ksgf.com, get yourself registered for the Godfather's Teachers Lounge Pizza Party, and if your name's drawn, then you're going to get a little pizza party in the teacher's lounge. News in 60 seconds. There is a listing in a piece from Politico regarding a progressive think tank, and it's a listing of words and phrases that they want Democrats to stop using so that they can essentially trick voters, the average voter, into thinking that they're normal. And this is a acknowledgement to some degree that they know that they're out of mainstream, and they know over what issues. I mean, they've compiled this listing of here are words that help people see how out of whack we are with the normal Americans. It's also a demonstration that they have no interest in changing who they are, and they have no interest in trying to be a greater representation of Americans, but instead trick Americans into thinking they're normal. Hence, let's stop exposing ourselves. And the list it's exactly what you might think that it is. We'll share that coming up. There is a new video that is up on my Nick Reed Facebook page, and it is the beginning through the completion. It's very short, about 30, 40 seconds, of my new outdoor living space from Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. And my work was hardscape work. Now, they do all sorts of other landscaping, outdoor living space designs, including drainage solutions and landscape lighting. They can create sound for you if you want. And so they really do everything, anything and everything. And I want to note also, and you can read this in some of the other reviews on their website, is that whenever they leave, if you've ever had projects done on your property, oftentimes when they leave, it's like, oh my gosh, I have a mess to clean up. The folks at Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, they do not leave a mess for you to clean up. They do such an incredible job, and the only footprint that is left when they're gone is the completed job that you wanted done, and nothing else. And, just increasingly a lot of companies and businesses, they don't pay attention to those details. And it's one of the reasons I recommend Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. And you can see, again, that video from beginning to end on my Facebook page, Nick Reed. And you can also visit them at hunterhardscapes.com or find them under Nick's endorsements at ksgf.com. All right, so here's a listing of terms that a progressive think tank is recommending Democrats stop using because they understand that they're not normal terms, and that average Americans roll their eyes at many of these terms. Now, I like when the left utilizes these terms and these words because it helps identify them as not knowing what the average person is going through, not concerning themselves with what the average American is going through. So it's a great self-identifier. And here's the other thing about it. I don't think the Democrats can help themselves. They just don't have the emotional stability or discipline to pretend at this point they are something that they are not. So some of the blacklisted terms, self-imposed, or at least an attempt to: privilege, violence as in environmental violence, dialoguing, triggering, othering, microaggression, holding space, body shaming, subverting norms, system of oppression, cultural appropriation, which is pretty funny because that applies almost wholly to Democrats themselves, Overton window, existential threat to the climate, to democracy, or to the economy, radical transparency, stakeholders, the unhoused, food insecurity, housing insecurity, person who immigrated, birthing person, cisgender, I know some of the classics in here, dead naming, heteronormative, patriarchy, LGBTQIA+, BIPOC, allyship, incarcerated people, and involuntary confinement. So this is a listing again, and this was in a Politico report. I'm telling you, this is a memory that I have that relates to what the Democrat Party has become, and it was years ago, long time ago. And I was working for a group of radio stations, and there was an individual that came in order to take over one of the radio stations, hired to do so. and changed up the music in order to play music that was relevant in their previous market. And it was much out of step with what had been working for this particular station. The station was number one in the market when it came to music, most listened to. And I remember talking to this person and saying, I don't think that that's going to work. What we've been doing or what this station has been doing is working. And what you're going to be doing is introducing a bunch of unknown, unrecognizable music into this market. And simply because it worked in another market doesn't mean it will work in this market. And his response was, they will learn to like it. The audience is wrong. This is better music. Now, of course, it did not work. Listenership fell off. Sure, some people were fine with it. Some people that didn't like it stuck around. But you increasingly had people tuning out because there were songs. And with the top 40 station, it's generally songs that, you want to hear. They're your favorite songs. Or they may be new songs, but they're by artists that you know and you like. And so you're going to, even if it's a new song, stick around and listen to the song. But that's not what was being done here. So you had people increasingly tuning out because there were songs and artists they never even heard of before. And it wasn't music that was relevant to them. But point being is, The mentality was, I'm the one in charge. I know what's right. And it wasn't about what the audience wanted because the audience was just wrong. And that's how the Democrat Party has been operating. The Democrat Party has been operating, they've shifted. And I mentioned earlier, I think the last time the Democrat Party actually chose to be a representation of voters or attempt to was during the Clinton era. Clinton, there was a bit of a shellacking during the midterms. It was largely attributed to what would essentially become Obamacare. It was called Hillary Care at the time, and that really freaked people out because they recognized it was going to make medicine more expensive, emergency room visits longer, rural hospitals would close up, costs would go up, it would take longer to get into, all the things that Obamacare did bring us. We were just smart enough back then to recognize it, and so the American people really rejected the Democrats in that next midterm election, and I mean just took a real shellacking. And the Democrats, led by Clinton at the time, recognized, okay, we clearly are not representing the people. They have rejected us. And they then made the deliberate effort to change who they were and what they were doing to a degree in order to reflect what it was that people wanted. That was really the last time that the Democrats have done that. They have shifted from, no, you will learn to like, and I'm talking about to the American people as a whole, not the base. That's a whole different situation. They have shifted to shaming you. If you don't agree with us, you're wrong. You see, in their minds, they no longer are a party that is supposed to be reflective of the values of the American people. The American people are supposed to respond and respect their values that they want to put in place. This is why they constantly call people, homophobes and transphobe and, everything that just identifies you as the American people as wrong if you don't agree with them. And this is also why they're having a difficult time staying relevant and why it is that their popularity is at an all-time low, because and this is where the struggle for the Democrat Party is coming about, is people just aren't getting it. Why don't they understand that we are the good guys? Well, you may believe that, but your values are not a reflection of what most people in this country feel and think. And to a large degree, at least some Democrats know this, hence the fact that you have this progressive think tank that is telling them, stop using these words. They're not saying that the words are bad or that as a party they need to turn away from the ideology or the philosophical grounding in the belief of these words and why these words exist. They're just recognizing that the American people are not on the same page with them, and so they have to pretend there's something they're not in order to trick people into voting for them that otherwise would not. Now, to give what should be a non-political example of this, coming up, I want to talk about Snoop Dogg and how he was on a podcast talking about being at a movie with his grandchild, and his grandchild, because of something that was political, social, put into a kid's film, how it put him in a difficult position. Now, his reaction, and I'll play the audio, is a normal person's reaction, which is why the left is recoiling against him internationally. In fact, an Australian senator calling for slur merchant Snoop Dogg to be removed from the AFL final. Latest news update.
You know what was not on that list of words and phrases that the Democrats should not use, but they should probably stop using? Calling people who disagree with them as Nazis or Hitler.
Well, but see, that's true. So they this is a meaningless list because they really can't help themselves.
Yep.
It's very clear, and they at times even acknowledge it. And right after the election, that just attacking Trump did not do them any good. That was not a winning formula. But what do they continue to do? They don't have the emotional discipline to not do these things that even they recognize are harmful to them. But that's part of the personality trait of somebody on the left, is they're emotionally driven, detached from logic and reality.
That's right. Let's get some weather, shall we?
Let's do it.
The first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 82. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 55. For your Wednesday, we'll see a 30% chance of showers, otherwise cloudy with a high near 82. And taking a look at Thursday, a 90% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 68.
Pinnaker Honda, the good people over there, the Pinnaker family. 2025 model years sell down, currently underway. Finance payments, this is not leasing stuff. This is you own it. 2025 Honda Civic Sports hatchback as low as $377 a month. The 2025 Honda HR-V LX CVT all-wheel drive as low as $332 a month, and rates as low as 0.99% on select models like the new 2025 Honda Ridgeline and select certified pre-owned vehicles. 0.99% on select pre-owned vehicles. Incredible deal there. And don't forget about the Pinnaker Advantage, 20% off oil changes and tire rotations when you purchase your vehicle from Pinnaker Honda. South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn, and under Nick's endorsements at ksgf.com. All right, Snoop Dogg, he sat down and he did an interview. This was a podcast interview. And it's talking about taking his grandson to see a movie. And the podcast, which is called It's Giving, he has what I would argue is a normal, this is a completely normal, non-political perspective from Snoop Dogg.
Took my grandson to see Buzz Light.
Toy Story?
Not that one.
Lightyear. I think it's called Lightyear.
With Kiki Palmer's in that movie.
Okay.
She plays like the daughter. So we watching it. The lady, which is Kiki's mama, and she had a baby with a woman. Well, my grandson in the middle of the movie like, Papa Snoop, how she have a baby with a woman? She a woman. I didn't come in for this. I just came to watch the movie. I'm scared to go to the movies now. Like, y'all throwing me in the middle of that I don't have an answer for.
So as you can imagine, the left now is calling for his head. Internationally, this story in particular, and this just is getting traction. So today, what sort of reaction there is going to be, I think we're going to see much of it today. A piece from, this is Yahoo News. An Australian politician has called for Snoop Dogg to be removed from the upcoming AFL final set for September 27th, the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Sarah Hanson-Young addressed the Australian Senate, asking for the rapper to be taken off the bill for the match's pregame entertainment. The politician used her speech to call Snoop a slur merchant. And there have been others that have begun on social media to really rip him for this. Now, I know it sounds like a somewhat redundant theme, but this is the sort of thing that once again shows how the left loses normal people. This is a normal reaction. Normal. And by the way, it's not anti-LGBTQ. This is not a homophobic position to take. I don't think anyone could conceivably ever point to anything about Snoop Dogg that makes him some sort of bigot or makes him some sort of anti-LGBTQ plus individual. This is a guy that's relaying his experience about going to a movie. And listen, reality's reality. Babies are created between a man and a woman. And as much as a lot of people want to live in a fantasy land and pretend as if, well, the definition of man versus woman, and that's, you can change it, and men can have periods, and Tim Waltz puts tampons in bathrooms. There are absolute facts in life. And babies are created by a man and a woman. These are just truths. Not my truth, but truths. It is the truth. And you can tell yourself, well, that's not my truth. You don't have a truth. You can have a fantasy world. You can live in a world of deniability. But truth is truth. And so it's perfectly natural for a 6-year-old to say, well, how did that happen? How do they have a baby? There's no daddy there. There's no man. It's two women. And it's also perfectly normal for a grandfather who took his child, or grandchild rather, to see a movie thinking this is just going to be fun, entertaining movie, to all of a sudden find himself being asked a question in which this is not, like he said, this is not what I came here for. I did not come here in order to end up having some sort of, political or social conversation about gender fluidity with my 6-year-old. And so, what is a normal, non-political reaction, a normal human being reaction, but the left is going to treat it as if he is some right-wing, MAGA, homophobe, Trump-loving, just because we're all categorized as this one ball of homophobic evil by the left in this country. And this is, part of the reason that, jeez. It's like you want to get in a room and be like, what do you not understand about this? How is it we can win back normal men? Stop doing this stuff. Stop it. Quit it. But again, they can't help it. The lack of intellect and emotional discipline by these people driving the Democrat Party. It takes people that otherwise feel either sympathetic or full-blown associate with that party and drives them out of it. Do you need to sit down and have a conference with RFK Jr., with Tulsi Gabbard, with Joe Rogan, with, a number of other high-profile people that may not necessarily, like Joe Rogan, he didn't become some sort of right-wing individual, but he was driven out by the left because he's normal. And this situation with Snoop Dogg and how it is that the left is going to react to him being a normal grandfather is where they are today. Now, of course, the big question here is Snoop Dogg, is he going to take the Sydney Sweeney route of just ignoring all the chatter because what she did was perfectly normal and what people who liked her ads were demonstrating through liking her ads are just perfectly normal, and so she just ignored the lunacy of the left? Or is he going to feel as if he needs to take a knee to it and give the standard traditional, I have a lot to learn, and you got to understand my generation, and I'm sorry if I upset people, I didn't mean anything by it? Or is he just going to ignore it? But we'll see. I suspect we'll know in very short order. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Coming up Friday, Heroes Breakfast, and that is for you veterans. Out at Scramblers this Friday, free breakfast for you. The Warriors Journey, incredible, incredible organization helping make it possible, along with Delta Roofing and Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, and, of course, Scramblers. So that is a Heroes Breakfast this Friday at Scramblers, 6 to 9.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 82. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 55. For your Wednesday, we'll see a 30% chance of showers, otherwise cloudy with a high near 82. And on Thursday, a 90% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 68. And the Pyramid Roofing Company, as you just heard, more rain in the forecast this week. If you experience any types of leaks, drips, yellowing on your ceiling, all that not so fun stuff, don't go at it alone and don't go with a random door knocker. Make sure that you have a trusted roofing professional on your side. Don't know one? Well, I do. And that is Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, the Pyramid team, they offer free roof inspections, and they also work with you through that insurance process to make sure that everything that needs to be covered gets covered. So whether you need a whole new roof or just a simple roof repair, or you need metal roofing services, reach out and schedule that free roof inspection with Josh. You can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at KSGF.com.
Have you seen those AI videos in which they take people during like historical events well before even television, and then they do an AI mock-up or creation as if social media existed back then?
Yes.
Yeah, and I've seen a number of these, like from the Founding Fathers and the Revolutionary War. One of them, it was actually somewhat humorous. I mean, it was post-television, but it was JFK, and he was doing a video complaining about the fact that Jackie insisted that they take the long drive to this event in Dallas, and so that they could wave to people, and how he really didn't want to do it. And then they have some, it's like a Bigfoot or gorilla, and he asks these, I got AI for all the worries and concerns, and I think warranted concerns about how this is going to impact the future. What's that going to look like? For me right now, there's a lot of really entertaining stuff that comes out of it. There's a video that has been circulating of what is the typical white liberal woman, kind of messy haired, look like she's probably in her 70s. And she posted a video about the results of Trump's immigration policies. And when I listened to it, I'm going to play the audio for you here. Much of it, in my mind, I thought if someone were to create one of those AI videos that was built around a woman of, a white woman who, her and her husband owned a plantation after the slaves were liberated, this is exactly what it would sound like. And so here she is, and this is a white liberal from Los Angeles.
My beautiful city, LA, and I have friends texting me like all morning. My gardener didn't show up. My housekeeper didn't show up. My farmer's market was closed. Everyone's scared. Well, this is not going to just happen in LA. And you 1%ers that only voted for Trump because of money? Guess what? You're going to have to do your own dishes or clean your own house or mow your own lawn and that wonderful produce, the organic produce you get for your brunches? All gone. Yeah, you're going to actually have to do some work around your house. These people are important.
It would not. You see what I'm saying? If you had told AI, create a video post from a woman who was over a white woman whose slaves were just freed, and that is exactly what you would have.
Yeah.
Who's going to, really railing against Lincoln? If you'd say, okay, make a post from a racist slave owner against Abraham Lincoln upon the liberation of the slaves, that would be it. Who's going to do your dishes? Who's going to pick your cotton? Who's going to clean your house? You're going to have to do this on your own. It is remarkable how the arguments that the Democrat Party used in order to support slavery are the exact same arguments that they use in order to support having people in this country illegally that work for less money than Americans would, because average Americans don't want to do those jobs. Same argument. The other thing that I find interesting about this, and listen, I don't begrudge people at all who are of a means to have people hired that work their gardens and that go grocery shopping for them and do their dishes for them. But it has increasingly become clear to me that the elites on the left don't realize that most Americans already do those things on their own. I mow my own lawn. I do my own dishes. I rake my own lawn. I do my own grocery shopping. I take out my own trash. I do these things. And it's just amazing to me what a bubble they live in, because it's clear that because the wealthy liberals, because of the way that they live, they assume that the rest of us live the same way. It's obvious that because they think that this is, that they keep using these examples. And this is something that the left started doing during Trump's first term, when he was talking about building the wall. And one of the, I mean, you can find it on YouTube when Kelly Osbourne was on The View and talking about who's going to clean your toilets, Donald Trump, if you deport these people. And so the reason that they use these examples and they say, you're going to have to mow your own lawn now, you're going to have to do your own dishes now, is because they think that none of us actually do those things. And this is a common human characteristic. It is easy to believe that everyone, the way that your life plays out, that's how everyone's life plays out. And it is so telling that every time people, and it's again the rich white lefties, every time they are talking to try to shame us, it's as if it's like we don't understand the implications of what's happening here, and they're warning us, this is going to hurt you because you're going to have to start doing this stuff. That they don't realize most of us do that already. And it is, I think, maybe for a lot of Americans, a real eye-opener to what the only value it seems that rich white left people put on individual human beings who come to this country illegally, that's all that they think of. Me, me, me. Do you hear how it's about them? Now, they're trying to put it in the context of you because they think that you live the same life they do, but it's all about who's going to do my dishes, who's going to clean my toilets. It's about them. It's not about these people that are being deported. It's about upsetting their privileged lifestyle in which they don't want to get their fingernails dirty. And every time they post a video like this or make a comment like this on The View or any other sort of left-wing setting, they expose themselves. And they tell us exactly who they are. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. I want a great homeloan.com. Thought I'd read to you what Chris had to say recently. I could not have been more pleased with the attention and support Alex Carricker and his team gave us throughout the entire process. Alex made us feel at ease, less nervous, and kept us informed the entire time. I will continue to use Alex Carricker and his team for all future endeavors. I recommend Alex and his team first to all my friends and business associates. Thank you, Alex, for giving my wife her forever home. And then it actually has a really nice picture of the family sitting on the front porch. That's what you get. It's so much more. How many times have you had some sort of financial transaction, maybe online, home loans, and make it easy and so forth, but that afterwards you felt that there was such care taken of you that you were compelled to have a family photo taken of your new home and posted, connecting it to the person who helped you? Probably not that often, but that's the sort of response you get from the service you get from iwantagreathomeloan.com, because you do. I played audio of a white liberal posting on social media about deportations and, whining about who's going to, pick our produce and who is going to clean our homes and wash our dishes. And I noted that if you were to tell AI, make a video of a former slave owner posting an angry video to Abraham Lincoln about freeing the slaves, this is exactly what it would be. That the arguments are exactly the same. And so Sarah over here was trying to actually get AI to do that.
It will not allow you to do it because what did it say? Hold on. It gave me a very long answer. But it said that it would be too sensitive and maybe not accurate. Yeah. So
like AI is
right.
These are videos that you could see Abraham Lincoln posting videos, or gorillas interviewing overweight people, but AI suddenly is concerned about accuracy.
Well, then I also said, since when is a robot worried about being sensitive? He's like, you're right, I don't have feelings.
Well, can you imagine, though, if AI would let you do that? You would not be able to distinguish, other than, now they would obviously have them dressed up in period piece, but if you were just to take the audio, you would not be able to distinguish between former slave owners griping at the Union and Abraham Lincoln and all of you Lincoln supporters and voters. I hope you're happy because no one's going to be picking our cotton. No one's going to do these jobs anymore that Americans don't want to do. You wouldn't be able to distinguish between the Democrat left-winger white liberals today talking about illegal immigration and the white Democrat lefties of the Civil War era and the slavery era arguing in favor of slavery. They'd be indistinguishable. It's really unfortunate that the AI won't do that, just so we could see, because it would be hard to tell the difference. President Trump signed an executive order targeting flag burning, announcing yesterday that he was going to direct the Attorney General to prosecute violations of laws involving flag desecration and to pursue litigation that would clarify the scope of the First Amendment as it relates to flag desecration. The order additionally directs Attorney General Pam Bondi to refer flag desecration cases that violate state and local laws to appropriate local authorities. The order follows months of protests, burning American flags, so forth, so forth, so forth. Now, I don't really think that this is something that he can do. And I think, here, first out of the gate, can I note this is an easy way to identify the difference between a conservative, a Trump supporter, versus somebody on the left. And this headline says it all from Fox News. Trump's flag-burning orders draws rare ire from conservatives. And that is, and we have seen this on a number of different issues, when Trump will come out in support of something that people that are his support base disagree with, they have no problem saying that. They have no issue saying, nope, you're wrong on this one. Bump stock ban would be another example in which during his first term signed an executive order outlawing that, bump stocks for firearms. And you had a tremendous amount of pushback from Trump supporters saying, nope, you can't do that. You're wrong on this one. Now, you look at that versus the Obama administration and followers, for example, and Obama himself, to great applause, declared that he couldn't just sign a DREAM Act because we had a thing called the Constitution and it had to go through Congress first. Well, when Congress didn't do it, he did it anyway. And his supporters fell right in line and said, okay, Biden openly defying the Supreme Court regarding taking debt that college students had agreed to take and pay back and transferring it to Americans that didn't go to college. And, it didn't matter that even Democrats prior to that recognized that's not the sort of thing you can do. Once it's done, they fall in line and support it. Look how they ran around claiming that Trump was a dictator because during the 2016 election, sometimes you would have his supporters say, lock her up. But whenever Democrats actually did try to lock Donald Trump up, they were right there. They didn't say, now, wait a minute here, we've got to be consistent. We can't support your effort here just because it's against our political opposition. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. That's not how they operate. And I think it is always a refreshing sign when you have the Trump support base and Trump comes out and does something that the base disagrees with, and they say it. This, by the way, is not a characteristic of a cult. If you want to look at the two sides and which side is more cult-like, and the argument that no matter what Trump does, his supporters get in line and support it, that's not true. And this is yet another example of it. Now, one of two things is occurring here. Trump either is viewing this as there are lots of unconstitutional things that get done. The previous administrations did it, so I might as well give it a whack as well, but something that's actually pro-America. And if it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't agree with that. And I think most, not all, but most Trump supporters also would not agree with that. Having that sort of willy-nilly attitude about it, that's the way the left operates. But Trump has brought to the table, and it's worked oftentimes. If they're going to do it, why can't we? It's part of the reason they don't like him so much. Or he could really not have any interest in whether or not this actually does become something that is punishable by time in jail, but he is, again, setting up a public battle to demonstrate the difference between Democrats and Republican, and in his mind, not constitutionality, but pro-America versus anti-America. And what he is potentially doing here is making a play that he believes will cause Democrats to come out and openly push for, supporting burning the flag, and perhaps even encouraging or, recognizing that in all likelihood this will encourage Democrat activists to get out there and start burning the American flag. And on top of everything else that they're doing publicly, supporting wife beaters, supporting gang members and human traffickers, pushing back against cleaning up city streets in which people of color are now able to actually walk through their own neighborhoods without fear of being raped or carjacked. And on top of that, you're going to have Democrats out there burning American flags and arguing for the right to burn an American flag. And just to lure Democrats into visually demonstrating how it is that they are so out of step with the average American. And the issue is somewhat nuanced because if I'm trying to get in his mind, he doesn't believe the average American is going to, if you have Democrats out there burning flags in the street in protest of this, he recognizes that most Americans aren't going to see that as a pushback against the First Amendment, and that this is some First Amendment battle that the Democrats are taking upon themselves, especially given that they cancel people left and right for using words that they don't like. But instead, they'll see it as pro-America versus those who hate America. I will note, while I personally believe there should not be laws as disgusting and vile as this is, there should not be laws against banning the burning of the flag, which the Supreme Court, incidentally, has addressed and said it is free speech. But there have been people prosecuted, and I know at least, I think it was in Minnesota or Michigan, a guy went to prison for burning a gay pride flag. And while I believe the initial base charge was destruction of property, it was enhanced because it was a, quote, hate crime. And if you are going to take the stance as somebody who's on the left that you should go to prison for burning a rainbow gay pride flag, but not go to prison for burning an American flag, then you are intellectually dishonest. Let's get the latest traffic update. I'm Nick Reed. One of the characterizations of this executive order from Trump notes that, and the executive order, and this is again from the Fox News story, announced on Monday, directs the Attorney General to prosecute violations of laws involving flag desecration and to pursue litigation that would clarify the scope of the First Amendment as it relates to flag desecration. So this is going to be potentially interesting because this executive order, as it's written, or described as it's written, and this would be appropriate use of executive order, saying, what laws exist already involving making it illegal to burn the flag, you need to focus on those and go after those. That's what you need to do. We need to focus on that. But I don't know if such laws exist, given that, my instinctual thought is they don't, because of the Supreme Court ruling some time ago. And so that would, if that is the case, fall into the latter of the two approaches that I described Trump potentially taking here, and that is, this is more about trying to provoke the left into getting out there and start really taking a proactive burn the flag stance, like they have taken a pro-crime stance and a pro-human trafficker stance, and just one insane decision after another by Democrats in order to fight back against Donald Trump. So we'll see exactly how all of that plays out, if the left will kind of ignore this or if they're going to see this as a call to arms, if you will, which, again, if they do, I suspect this is playing right into Donald Trump's hands. The one thing he did say, and these are just words, but that I really am not comfortable with, is talking about how part of his motivation behind this is because burning the flag can incite people in order to carry out acts of violence. And I just, I don't like that approach, because then you could, all right, well, if I burn a gay pride flag and then a bunch of pro-LGBTQ people go and commit acts of violence and they say they did it because of that, I compelled them to do it out of anger, does that mean that I'm responsible for that? And I'm just a big believer that everyone is ultimately responsible for their own actions. And so I don't like, even though that may not be in the executive order, but even just verbalizing that as part of the rationale for it. Like I said, I think it's very good and a very healthy sign that Trump supporters are willing and openly willing to say, hey, I don't agree with this whenever Trump is wrong on something. That is a big differential from the way that voters on the left operate. News in 60 seconds. Cracker Barrel has made another post.
I saw this.
Yeah. Oh, boy. One thing that I don't actually know is whether these changes, as much of a backlash as they are getting, is actually going to result in lower foot traffic. I really don't know the answer to that. And part of the reason is because, okay, let's use Bud Light as an example. Bud Light, one of the reasons I believe that it was easy for them to really lose in sales because of that whole marketing, issue of theirs with Dylan, whatever the guy's name was that pretended to be a girl, was because Bud Light, for most people, it wasn't like, that's the only beer I like, and I can't ever drink any other beer. Most people, it's pretty interchangeable with other beers. The food at Cracker Barrel really is, I think, really good, and people who go there, they really do like the food. And it isn't the sort of, I mean, I guess maybe some people could argue you could get food like that elsewhere, but there aren't that many places. Like with the cheesy hash browns and the dumplings, and there's just a lot there that is good. And I think a lot of people do go to Cracker Barrel. They go there for the food. And so it's this weird marriage of, I do believe people go there for the food, but they've come to really love Cracker Barrel in addition to the food, but they love the atmosphere as well, that old-timey atmosphere that was created. And so, if the menu had completely changed in addition to the feel and the atmosphere of Cracker Barrel, then I think you would be talking about something much different. But because the food is the same, and I don't, when I look at the visuals of the changes that have taken place, and I think it's dumb. I think it is out of step and out of tune with the Cracker Barrel culture that people like and enjoy. But it's not anything that would actually make me not go there because the food is the same. And so I don't know how much, despite some people saying they won't go any longer, that aspect of it is going to really make a difference. Now, at the same time, this is such a nuanced situation. The redesigning, which I don't feel is woke, has drawn attention to Cracker Barrel, and that attention has revealed to a lot of people that they actually have been woke for some time. And so while the redesign that seems to be getting all of the attention isn't in and of itself what I consider to be because of wokeness, it is exposing the actual wokeness of Cracker Barrel to a lot of people for the first time, and that might actually have some sort of impact. They've really created a bit of a mess for themselves here, potentially. And this arguably could have no impact whatsoever. I know it did on the overall value in terms of the stock, prices, and they say, lost $148 million in value or whatever it was. But if the foot traffic stays the same and if the revenue has continued to be generated as it has in the past, I think that'll all fix itself. Now, that being said, I do find it interesting that they continue to address this in a manner that is inconsistent with success. We're going to get the latest news, and then I'll share with you their latest statement. And then, in addition to that, the peg board, the game, the little triangle?
Yes.
Have you seen the latest on that?
I have.
It's just like, and I don't know if so they've changed that. I don't know if that had been done some time ago and that is now getting attention, but it's just like, of all the things that they don't need in terms of attention right now, it is the changes that has been made to the little triangle peg thing that, if you have one peg left as you jump and remove, then you're a genius, and it goes all the way down to ignoramus. Well, they've changed that verbiage, which is just going to bring more attention that they don't want in a negative fashion. Right now, the latest news.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt is sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 82. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 55. For your Wednesday we'll see a 30% chance of showers, otherwise cloudy with a high near 82. And for your Thursday, a 90% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 68.
All right, a text to win opportunity for you. You probably have heard the ads, heard us talk about the upcoming event, Because You're Mine, the music of June Carter and Johnny Cash at the Atos Center. It is a concert experience. It's not just straight up concert, but it weaves together concert moments, sketches, and stories with 23 hit songs. And it is supposed to be an amazing performance. It's coming up on September 7th at 6 p.m., so you can always purchase yourself tickets or register to win a pair if you'd like to by texting the word June to the Pyramid Roofing Company text line at 417-447-5743. And if you can't remember that number, just download the app. It's as simple as hitting a little button that says text line. Again, the word June. And that word is good for today. We will have another word tomorrow. So every day tune in to hear the word. And that will be an additional opportunity for you to potentially win tickets to see that performance of Because You're Mine, the music of June Carter and Johnny Cash at the Atos Center. All right, someone had texted in on the Pyramid Roofing Company text line. What am I missing? I went to Cracker Barrel one time, and the food was so bad we never went back. Dreadful. Maybe I went to a bad location, but I never tried it again. It was so bad. In my personal experience and experience of other people that I know, that is inconsistent with what people usually experience. You can always have a bad meal, but I've just always, and I think a lot of people do, again, and this is what is helping or will potentially help Cracker Barrel navigate through this, is that the food really is quality for most people. And again, you can get things there that you don't get at most restaurants, dumplings being an example, the cheesy hash browns, which you can get variations of. But as I mentioned earlier, this is an interesting situation because it's not as if the atmosphere thing that has been changed is not the only reason people went. I don't even think it's the primary reason. People go for the food, but the atmosphere they love as well, and that changing is a big part of it. But is it enough for people to stop going? That's what I don't know. Time, I suppose, will tell. Now, as I mentioned earlier, also this non-woke alteration to the overall atmosphere is, unfortunately for Cracker Barrel, drawing attention to the fact that they actually do have a woke background that has been going on internally and externally to some degree, being heavily involved in pushing LGBTQ stuff to kids and being part of the events in Nashville and other places, receiving awards for their work and these left-wing efforts. And so the non-woke, non-political aspect of this is drawing attention to that, which that could harm them. Now, here is their latest posting that they have made on social media, and I want to go through this because to me this is not going to help. I don't think it's going to hurt, but I don't think it's going to help. A promise to our guests. In the last few days, or if the last few days have shown us anything, it's how deeply people care about Cracker Barrel. We're truly grateful for your heartfelt voices. You've also shown us that we could have done a better job sharing who we are and who we'll always be. All right, now, maybe I read too much into stuff, but this is essentially saying the only mess up we made is not clearly telling you who we are. And what people are reacting to here is we know who you have been, at least in terms of the overall feel and ambiance of the restaurant. We're telling you we don't like the fact that you've changed that. Some people, I don't even know if the problem is, quote, who they are. It's just the freaking decorations that people don't like. They don't like the change of it. And that's not an unusual thing. Listen, there was an entire... Well, there's been numerous shows, but you remember the show Trading Spaces that was on TLC for years where you had two couples that were friends. They would swap and redecorate each other's houses, and it wasn't anything that was a major renovation. It was just changing the overall feel of the home, and sometimes they were really excited, loved it. Other times they would break down and cry, it looks awful, because those things have an impact on people. The look of things, the feel of things, and so people are reacting to that. And so for Cracker Barrel to say, well, this is our fault because we haven't explained to you who we are. It's like being in a relationship and then 30 years into it, all of a sudden one of the two partners really starts to change their attitude and who they are, and being around them is a lot different. And then when you confront them about it, they say, well, I guess I should have done a better job of explaining who I am to you. I don't think that would make the person go, oh, okay, yes, that's the problem here. No, the problem is that you changed. They went on to say, you've shown us that we could have done a better job sharing. Okay, so that's what I just read, the point I was making. What has not changed, and what we will never change, are the values the company was built on when Cracker Barrel first opened in 1969. Hard work, family, scratch-cooked food made with care, a place where everyone feels at home, no matter where you're from or where you're headed. That's the Cracker Barrel that you'll always find. While our logo and remodels may be making headlines, our bigger focus is still right where it belongs, in the kitchen and on your plate. And then it goes through explaining how all the food is the same. Well, nobody's complaining about the food. Everyone knows that the food is the same. This is not the complaint. So they have an entire couple of paragraphs here, telling the audience, their customers who aren't upset about the food, don't worry, our food is the same. They go on to say the things people love most about our stores aren't going anywhere: rocking chairs on the porch, a warm fire in the hearth, peg games on the table, which we'll get to in a moment, unique treasures in our gift shop, and vintage Americana with antiques pulled straight from our warehouse in Lebanon, Tennessee. Again, some may think this is nitpicking, but utilizing the term warehouse while trying to make people feel better about the alteration to decor, which people felt was a representation of what came from estate sales and homes, and much of those items actually did, and then saying, well, we still get stuff from the warehouse. It just, I don't know, it's like you don't understand what people are upset about here. We love seeing how much you care about our old timer. We love him too. Uncle Herschel will still be on our menu. Welcome back, our Uncle Herschel's favorite breakfast platter, on our road signs and featured in our country store. He's not going anywhere. He's family. Well, when it comes to the logo, he did go somewhere away. We take that responsibility very seriously. We know we won't always get everything right the first time, but we'll keep testing, learning, and listening to our guests and employees. At the end of the day, our promise is simple. You'll always find comfort, community, and country hospitality here at Cracker Barrel. Uncle Herschel would not have wanted it any other way. Thank you for caring so much, and come see for yourself the country hospitality that makes Cracker Barrel feel like home. Love Cracker Barrel. Now, this, to me, again, seems as if they're saying, okay, we hear you and everything, but you're not hearing us. And this is the way it is from now on. They mention the pegboards and how the peg games is part of what is part of their values that are staying the same. It is unfortunate that they use that as an example because on social media, people have been posting what are the new peg games. Now, I don't know how long ago this change took place, but those of you who have played the game before, it's a little triangle if you haven't played it. It's a wood triangle with holes in it, and each hole has a peg except for one. And you take a peg and you jump over another peg to the empty hole, and you remove the peg that you jumped over. And you continue to do that with the ultimate goal of ending up with only one peg. Which, of course, most of the time, unless you have it memorized how best to do it, you're going to end up with 2 pegs, 3 pegs, 4 pegs. And so on the board itself has your little results, your rating system. And it says, if you leave 1, you're a genius. Leave 2, and you're pretty smart. Leave 3, and you're just plain dumb. Leave 4 or more, and you're just plain ignoramus. The new peg game says if you leave 3 or more, don't be embarrassed, try again. And this does play into that sense of wokeness. Well, we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. We don't want to trigger anyone. We don't want anyone to feel bad about themselves. And so, golly gee willikers, your participation ribbon is you get to try again. And it just is more of what people are tired of. What unfortunate timing for Cracker Barrel that this is the latest thing that is catching people's attention on social media about these. Again, I say that's a new version. I don't know. Maybe it's been in place for some time, or maybe they thought, hey, you know what?
It was a part of the rebrand as well.
Like this. So, but the thing is this, I don't even know, frankly, has the Springfield Cracker Barrel gone through these changes?
I'm not sure.
I don't know because I haven't been in a while. It's just the proximity of it. It's so far away from where I live. It's like we love Cracker Barrel, but I guess not that much, evidently. It's such a travel place for it. Oh, where are they on the interstate, which is really smart. So many people I've talked to, they're like, oh, every time we go here or there, we stop at the one there and so forth. So I don't, this remodeling has been rolling out for some period of time now, which is another interesting component to this, that it is now suddenly getting all the attention when this has been going on for some time. So I don't know. Some of you could text in whether the Springfield location has been impacted by this yet. So yeah, being part of the overall rollout means that this is as new as the changes, but it's just another attention to detail that people infer is because of wokeness with this in particular. And I think there is an argument. The core change to me isn't a woke thing, but there's a little bit of, I don't know if you want to call it wokeness, but the political correctness with, well, we don't want to trigger people or hurt their feelings. And so let's not say you're an ignoramus. Let's instead, if you do very poorly, say, golly gee whiz, you get to try again. We're all winners. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Okay. Let's see. Oh, the Pyramid Roofing Company text line. Somebody texting in, who cares this much about Cracker Barrel? Can't you talk about something that matters? The show is painful. I find it somewhat ironic that they're complaining about the fact that, like, we're talking about something that is relevant to a lot of people about cultural changes and so much, but they don't. It's like they're complaining about complaining. So, okay. I mean, I hesitate to say it, but you don't have to listen. I mean, don't do something that's painful to yourself. Turn it. Find something less painful. You don't have to do that. I mean, if you want, that's great. Like I said, I hesitate to tell people not to listen, but at the same time, for your own mental health, if it's that bad, it's like going to a restaurant over and over and over again that you hate and you complain about. Like, don't go there any longer. All right, want to play some audio from a number of different sources. Let's look at the time here. We're going to get traffic, but let's see. Do we have time? I think we do have time to get Trump and Pam Bondi in the Oval Office. And there was a question as the latest cause of the Democrats is to rally around the human trafficker and wife beater, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And this back and forth surrender under ICE, going to be deported, not deported. Judges keep stepping in. But the one thing is that it's clear right now this is priority number one in terms of greatest people in existence that need to be defended by the Democrat Party. And there was a question asked regarding this individual in the Oval Office, Trump, then Pam Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, MS-13 gangbanger and human trafficker Kilmar Abrego Garcia turned himself into ICE in Baltimore. Do you have any comment on this? And why are the Democrats so emotionally attached to this man who beats his wife and is part of a terrorist organization?
Because they think he's going to be good for votes, and I think he's very bad for votes. These people are deranged. He's not good for votes. He beat the hell out of his wife. His wife is afraid to even talk about him. She's been mauled by this animal. And, through a system of liberal courts, he's doing things. But, no, we have that under control. And Pam has got that very much under control. Do you want to comment on it?
No, we've got him under control. He will no longer terrorize our country. He's currently charged with human smuggling, including children. The guy needs to be in prison. He doesn't need to be on the streets like all these liberals want him to be. And as part of this operation here in DC, we've also taken off MS-13 members. We've taken, I think just last night, we got a TDA guy off our streets right here, right around from where we all work. Another TDA member gone because of this project. So we're going to keep America safe from all of these foreign terrorist organizations, including Abrego Garcia.
I can't imagine what is going on in the mind of this guy. Here you are, someone whose wife had to go to court to get a restraining order because you beat her so badly. You're a human trafficker. You are a member of one of the most violent, dangerous gangs in the country. Lord knows what other crimes he's committed. I suspect probably more than we know. And you're in a country illegally, and there is an entire political party treating you like a celebrity. Even he's got to be thinking, this is crazy. Can you imagine the conversation that he has with these other pieces of crap human beings that traffic? And I mean, do you know how it is that people die because of these people? When you hear a story about a truck being found in the desert with 12 dead children and 18 dead women who smothered to death in the heat, and there were bloody claw marks on the walls and the doors for the people trying to escape, it's people like this that create that scenario. That's what this guy does. And I can only imagine the conversation that he has with his other human trafficking buddies that go home for recreational purposes to beat their wives, and they've got to be like, what on earth is going on? Like, how is it that you have become a celebrity of a political party and of Hollywood celebrities and elites and people in the media? It is a real sign of insanity within the cultural left in this country, of all of the people to rally around. It's almost as if they said, let's find the worst one possible, or at least worst 10%. Jump over to traffic more ahead. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 82. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 55. For your Wednesday, we'll see a 30% chance of showers, otherwise cloudy with a high near 82. And taking a look at Thursday, we'll see a 90% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 68.
Before the traffic played audio of Pam Bondi and Donald Trump in the Oval Office, President Trump responding to a question from a reporter about Kilmar Garcia. And I want to play the question for you again, and I'll explain why here after you hear the question asked by, and I'm not even sure who this reporter is with.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, MS-13 gangbanger and human trafficker Kilmar Abrego Garcia turned himself into ICE in Baltimore. Do you have any comment on this? And why are the Democrats so emotionally attached to this man who beats his wife and is part of a terrorist organization?
All right, now, let me tell you why I just love this. Because this is a pro-Trump administration version of asking a question that would, that's the best way to put this. We've all been so accustomed to the left and how journalists on the left frame questions from an antagonistic perspective while asking Trump. In other words, you're guilty. Here's the question. And this is the opposite. This is like if you were to take the standard left-wing journalist and say, okay, do the opposite, and that's what's happening here. And I just love it. I think it's great. Now, there are a number of journalists that do ask questions that aren't tilted towards one side or the other. And I'm sure I'm going to guess that this guy isn't one of the traditional media people, but he's one of the media people that is now able to ask questions of the president because of the recognition by the administration that media has changed and we are sort of shaking things up, and it's no longer going to be controlled by the standard mainstream media. We are going to allow alternative media outlets to have access to the president as well. And I think it's pretty fair to say this is part of the reason why. But the average journalist would hear that question and roll their eyes and say, well, can that guy be any more Trump? Well, look in the mirror, because that is just a mirror image of what you do. But it's the other side. That is the way that the question would have been asked if it were Joe Biden in office by regular media outlets if Kamala Harris had been elected. Now, of course, the issue would be different because of, where they stand when it comes to illegal immigration. But I think you understand my point here, in that it's like finally you can hear questions asked of Trump the same way that they get asked of Democrat presidents. And that is in a more glowing, positive, perspective or platform or narrative, I should say. And it's just really kind of nice to hear that. And frankly, it makes me chuckle a bit. Here are a number of Democrat activists that were out demonstrating on behalf of the MS-13 gang leader and wife beater, Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
People.
Kilmar is our neighbor. You can't have him Trump. Now, are you the sort of neighbor whenever you hear his wife screaming and bouncing off the walls, and are you the sort of neighbor that just ignores it and says, well, he's a nice guy, she probably had it coming? Or are you the sort of neighbor that called 911 for her? You know what pretty much every one of those people had in common? Any guess? Of course, liberal, but middle-aged, older white people. Now, switching to the continued narrative by white liberals that crime is not a problem. Crime is something that has been made up by Trump in order to try and take over cities. That, in fact, crime is getting better. Now, you may have heard top of the hour Stephen Miller from the Oval Office addressing the issue that the rigging of numbers in order to falsely portray cities as getting safer is something that we're all going to learn the details of soon, and it's much worse and bigger than we even suspected, that according to Stephen Miller's characterization. And so what you get is the media's interpretation of things. You get the falsified numbers that are used by the media and Democrats, and then you get the white liberal protesters. But then there are people like this gal, black woman from D.C.
President Trump has not even had control over Washington, D.C. for 30 days. And I have on my For You page video after video showing DC, specifically Union Station, and how clean and safe it is. People don't understand how big of a deal it is, specifically for Union Station, because there is a bridge, whether it's the bypass, it's either 95, 395, or 495, where the homeless, as well as people who are abusing drugs, as well as the drug dealers, they just squat. It's clean. It's all gone. This was also an underpass bridge where people would throw their waste. So you would drive on the main road, and to the left and right of you is nothing but trash. It's all clean. People don't understand how big of a deal this is, because the Capitol is right there within like a 6 or 7 minute walk. And then also local residents, they did not like walking there, whether in the daytime or the evening. Some people would take taxis just to avoid any type of encounters. And people have been talking about cleaning this up for a decade. And you mean to tell me President Trump hasn't even had control for 30 days and he cleaned it all up?
Incidentally, that last point is one of the reasons that Democrats are so concerned about Trump utilizing his authority, if he is able to dispatch National Guard to their communities, because they know then the residents are going to see that it has been possible all this time to make it safer, but they've chosen not to. This is a deliberate decision. Further evidence of that is when the communist dictator, leader of China, came to visit California, and lickety-split, the streets were cleaned up of drugs, of graffiti, of homeless people. The human feces on the streets. I believe it was San Francisco that the visit came, and they lined the streets with the communist flag and with great fanfare. It's amazing how Gavin Newsom, as governor of California, was able to clean up the homelessness and crime when a communist dictator who presides over a country of slavery was coming to town. But when it comes to actually doing it for the people, the residents, the citizens, they have no interest in doing it. And so here, yet again, a person of color, which we're not supposed to apparently listen to. They're part of the MAGA lie, as opposed to the white rich liberals in areas like Washington, D.C. But here you have this woman of color from Washington, D.C. You mean to tell me less than 30 days and Trump fixed this problem? That's what the governor of Illinois and the mayor of Chicago and the mayor of Baltimore and the mayor of all these other cities, that's what they're concerned about. The proof that it can be done. They just are either unwilling to or incapable of doing it. Speaking of, we'll have some audio of a woman from Chicago, another woman of color, regarding the issue of crime in the city, and Governor Pritzker claiming that, everything's wonderful, and posting a video of himself down in Chicago, and look how wonderful and safe it is. We'll have his, the story on him, and then the audio of a real Chicago resident. After that, I'm Nick Reed. One of the tactics that Democrat governors and mayors are taking in their marketing pushback against the reality of crime in their communities is to, surrounded, I'm sure, by their security detail, though it's left out of the videos, and then posting videos of a specific area in the city in which there's no crime taking place at that moment, and that they use as proof that there's no crime. Now, that's like having horrific child abuse being committed in the child's bedroom, but because I'm in the living room FaceTiming and you don't see it, that means that there's no child abuse occurring. Of course, it's absurd. But this is the crux of the argument from a number of these Democrats, one of which was J.B. Pritzker, who is the governor of Illinois, white billionaire. And he had actually, so he had done a posting. It was either him or the mayor, and it was one of the typical, look, everything's fine here at 6 a.m. down on this jogging trail when I'm surrounded by security, so that means that we don't have to worry about crime. But there was another televised, or it was a press conference with J.B. Pritzker, and I don't know who the camera guy that did this was, but Pritzker is talking about how great Chicago is and how wonderful it is. And while he is praising the beauty and just how wonderful Chicago is, the cameraman takes the camera and pans over to a Trump building with the huge Trump logo on the building. And why that person did that, I don't know, but it's absolutely perfect and hilarious. As has become consistent with the Democrat Party, people of color have the voices that are not being heard, but for a few places that are the, quote, pro-Trump outlets. On with, I believe it was Laura Ingraham on Fox News, a black resident, a black woman of Chicago, regarding claims by the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Illinois that there is no need for anyone to come in and help with the crime problem because there is no problem.
We are not thinking about Pritzker or Brandon Johnson. We just had 4 mass shootings in the span of 1 month. 14 people got shot and 4 dead. We just had senior citizens laying shot, bleeding in the streets. And let's not forget the gentleman who we saw, who was on Facebook Live, get robbed and shot while he was sitting in his car. So we don't care about anything these people are saying. Tell Brandon Johnson and Pritzker, if Chicago is so safe, with Brandon Johnson especially, let's leave his 150 police detail. Fire them and walk around with no police detail. And Pritzker, no security. Come in my community, the south side of Chicago. Come over there and let's see you say how safe it is. You can't even sit in your car long. If you sit in your car, you know that it's a chance you're going to get carjacked, robbed, or shot. So tell him to come around in my neck of the woods and talk that.
And again, what we have here is the consistency of 2 messages. There is the message of the person of color, usually women, whether it's D.C. or Chicago in that latest audio bit, saying that we have a severe problem. We need this taken care of. And then you have the rich white liberals, in the case of Pritzker, billionaire, that are saying, don't listen to those people. Listen to us. Everything's just fine. Nothing to see here. Truly the political party that's looking out for the person of color, particularly those that are lower income. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. We are finally getting some relief from the hot weather. If you've experienced issues with your AC this season, now is the time to address those issues. And my go-to guys are Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. They do residential and commercial services, and whether you need a simple tune-up, a service repair, or maybe it's time for a new unit, the Foreman team, they have got you covered. They're also hiring, so if you are looking for a change of pace, Russell is looking for a couple of service techs to join his crew. So whether you need AC services before the heat returns or you're looking for more information on their current job openings, reach out to Russell today. You can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Yesterday, from the Oval Office, President Donald Trump signing a proclamation commemorating the Abbey Gate attack, which happened 4 years ago there with the Gold Star families, of which he has a good relationship with these individuals, I think, as president and just as a human being. And you hear that reflected in what so many of these families have said about how Trump has communicated with them, reached out to them. This is, of course, contrary to the previous administration responsible for that disastrous pullout that would result in the terrorist attack taking the lives of those 13, of which their family members noted that there was no attempt from anyone from the Biden administration to reach out to them. Their only interaction with him was when he kept looking at his watch to see how soon he could apparently get out of there as those bodies were received back here in the United States of America. Here's Trump in the Oval Office regarding the signing of the proclamation.
So sad and so unnecessary. And, what people don't know, there were a lot of other people killed from the other side. I call that, people killed. And the people that we also contact we have like 32, maybe more, but approximately 32 who lost their arms and their legs. And your kids didn't make it, they made it, but boy, they got to go through hell. And we have 32, at a minimum 32. And then you had hundreds of people killed overall. You had hundreds of people killed that day. That was a rough day. We had 13 of our great ones, right? Yes. And somehow this group is just, we get together every once in a while. So I just want to thank you. We're 4 years now into this nightmare. We're just a nightmare. I think that date also helped start the war with Putin and Ukraine, because he saw how incompetent our military was under Biden and under Milley and all these dopey people. And that's not our military. You see what our military is now. We knock the hell out of people if we have to, or we settle because they don't want to play games with us. But I just want to say I'm really honored to be with you again, and we'll be with each other for a long time.
Now, Hegseth would also note that there's going to be a very thorough and in-depth investigation as to exactly what went wrong, and he said that is deadlined to be summer of next year, though he encouraged that perhaps it could be done even sooner, but they do want to make sure that it's done right. And I tell you, the thing about that particular event that really does stand out to me that I remember was the distinction between the Biden administration and the average American. And what we would, of course, learn again is that the Biden administration really paid no attention, tried to downplay it, and would not have any sort of communication, direct communication with the family members. And so it gave off this sort of attitude that could be interpreted as, well, we don't care as a country about those who lost their lives. But we also saw across this country restaurants and bars that were leaving the seats, 13 seats, that were there reserved in honor of those. I even remember a Sonic that put 13 cups in a stall there in order to send the message that we care. And I thought that was just such a profound distinction between how the average American felt about those who gave their lives versus what that administration did. And it was a great message that despite that lack of care and compassion from that particular administration, the American people still does have a great amount of love and care for those who serve. Glenn Beck's coming up next. I'm Nick Reed.